Welcome back. This is part 3 of the Allis-Chalmers PTO belt pulley. This is the installation. This is hopefully the last step in putting this thing on. So this is what I'm working on this evening, and hopefully I wrap it up. But I first started by draining oil and removing, there was just a kind of a blank cover plate covering this hole, and then removed that, and then I started to kind of insert this and set up for the lashing. So I'll kind of give you a closer view of what the manual is describing. All right, so I guess the ultimate goal here is to get this thing inserted in there onto the drive gear that's in this housing here and get the correct lashing. And that's all done by these shims here I got in this bag. Sorry about that, but they're the whole, I don't know how many there's there, maybe 8 or 10, I'm not sure, probably 8. And get the correct number of those in there. So what the manual says is to insert this thing in the housing, put a cap screw in the rear hole, cap screw in the front hole, and then there's down here in the middle, you're supposed to use one of the cap screws there too. This thing helps set the tilt of the housing. She's like, you want to get it all squared up or flat to here. And so what I did, I inserted it in, I tightened everything up evenly to push it in against the tractor housing until it got tight, until this thing got pretty tight to turn. So that was indicating to me that the drive gear on this was hitting the other gear tight. And from there, what I understand, you're supposed to back it off just a little bit so it's loose like this, and then adjust all 3 of these bolts so this thing is setting evenly spaced. Let me see if I can get a picture out of here. A view. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a gap there. This gap here, you want that to be as even as you can the whole way around. And you're supposed to measure that. I did with a micrometer, and I measured about 0.05 of an inch. And then they say add 0.03 of an inch. So that's about 0.08 of an inch. So I put all these shims together that my dad had given me, and I cleaned up. And when I had them all together, I measured 0.10 inch, and that was too much. So I removed 2 and came up with 0.08 of an inch. So that should be correct. So, you know, this original bundle my dad gave me with the extra 2 that I'm not going to use, I don't know if that was, you know, used originally on the tractor or not, or maybe over time, you know, there's some gear wear. So now the thing sits in a little bit more than when it was new. Another thing that might contribute to the extra thickness. So these things were heavily, well, not heavily, but they were corroded pretty good. And I steel wooled the heck out of them and cleaned them up best I could to put oil. So maybe they're not, you know, compacting together quite as much as when they were new. So, but you know, this is what I got to work with. So I think this is work. So I'm gonna take this off, put in this little pack here, which currently measures 0.08 of an inch, put it all back together and kind of just spin this here and make sure it feels, you know, not too loose, not too tight. And we'll see. So I'm gonna do that, and then we'll come back. Okay, I got this thing reinserted, got my shims in there. I can't see them, but kind of, they're, you know, they're there. You can kind of see the little lines. I'm in there, got it tightened down. I'm a little bummed out. I thought I had 6 new bolts, but I didn't. So I had to use one of the old bolts. Now, these bolts here are 1.5 inches long. The reason I knew that, because that's one of the originals. And I guess I got a couple different combination of bolts here. So this was one, this is about 1 inch long. This was one that they used to hold on the cap, or the cover plate over the PTO hole. Well, there was also a big cast iron block on here, and it had 4 bolts, and those were 1.5 inches, and about the thickness of this here. So that's how I kind of knew that 1.5 inches would work. This block was some kind of mounting system for an old side mount sickle bar mower, but that thing's long gone, so that's not needed. But got this thing back in, feels pretty good. I have no torque values for the bolts. I looked through my manual. There's no values for that, so I just kind of torqued them down to what I thought was snug, nice and snug, and that was about 35 pounds of torque, and I imagine that's fine. So now all I got to do is put the pulley on, and then tomorrow, I'll let it sit overnight with oil in it, and hopefully that seal I put in here actually works, and this was all for nothing. But we'll know tomorrow morning. I'll fire it up and make sure that it spins. Now, I guess one thing I want to point out, I wish I'd have taken a video inside this hole and had it off, and I apologize for that. But there's a bearing that sits back in here on this main shaft, right? There's a gear on this side of the bearing. That bearing, oil runs out from this side, the power direct, and was, since I drained this out, the oil wanted to run out the bottom of the bearing into this housing. So I lost, in the process of this, I lost oil from the power direct. So if you're gonna do this, make sure when you're done that you cap this off with oil and check that. Make sure you didn't lose too much out of the power direct. I didn't see a seal on this side of the bearing. I don't know if there's one on the other. I'd have to look in the manual. Maybe it's just, maybe there never was one. I don't know, but just keep an eye on that. And we'll get back after I put the pulley on. All right, it's the next morning, so this had all night with oil in it to see how the seals performed. The one seal, the O-ring, appears to have done just fine. There's no little stream of oil coming down the bottom. So I believe that thing is doing its job quite well. However, the outer seal, you can see that little drop of, little bit of oil there, has a really slow leak. So a little bummed out about that. And to be honest, I'm really not sure what to expect. I was kind of suspect of that seal, but at least it's not pouring out of there. And I don't know what it was like when it was new. I assume it didn't leak when it was new, but I don't know. I wasn't around. So the O-ring works great. The outer ring, not so much. Obviously the outer seal works, is a big improvement over the original because it was wore out, and I don't believe it was doing much of anything. So I guess you all can be a judge of that, but I'm going to fire up the tractor and make sure that the pulley spins. Okay, there you have it. Seemed to work. Like I said, a little bummed out about that outer seal, but it is what it is, and you know, hopefully, I don't know, some of the Allis-Chalmers guys could find something helpful about this. I mean, maybe you don't want to use the same outer seal that I was able to find, but the O-ring seems to work great. So, you know, if you like it, let me know, and hope to see you again. Thanks. Bye.